let's move right into Queen's Court. Let's do that here today. And Queen, I have learned in the past not to try to give you some long-winded intro. I'm just going to set it up very simple. You're in charge. We get to submit our best picks to you, and hopefully they're good enough to not get our heads chopped off. We play this game each and every week. Queen, you're up. Set it up. Who do you want to go first? It's your show.
Well, first of all, you guys always say that I just make this up and that nobody in Team Tackle wants blood. So I'm going to put it out there now. Does Team Tackle want to see blood? Because I don't want to chop people's head every single week off. But if you guys want to see blood, I will definitely give you blood. So I'm putting it out there. Team Tackle, type in the chat if you want to see blood today. Let me know. As the guys start to give me their picks, I will listen in and I will give them what my thoughts are after they have all presented. Matt, you were not here last week, so I will have you go first.
Maddie?
Yeah, hold on.
He's oh, no.
I'm getting Queen's Court ready. That's what I felt like 2 weeks ago. And that's him telling me that was funny. I'm first.
Yeah.
You're first. You're
okay.
up
By
first.
the way, don't Google heads chopped off.
Not a pretty sight.
You don't want to see that.
No.
All right. Okay. Now, in terms of Queen's Court.
I just.
Yeah, I know. Oh, you got to watch the whole thing. It's rainbow. It's good. Okay. By the way, that was the best one I found just barely. Okay. Queen's Court pick. Tim, you got your pick?
For the record, they're asking for blood, so just know somebody will get
They're
their
asking
head
for
chopped
blood.
off. Yep, they are.
I do have my pick, and I'm ready to roll.
Did everybody have a great weekend? Like too much fun this weekend? We need blood today. Blood and circus. Is that what they call for? Well, we give them both. All right. I'm a little nervous now. Okay, so when I was going through my watch list here today, Tim, I was looking at a couple stocks. Okay, I was looking at the potential reversal in Airbnb. I like that, but I'd like to see it really kind of navigate that 150 mark a little bit better than it is today. I was then looking at Cleveland Cliffs, as I still like that continuation. I detailed this in the options report. Didn't get our continuation trigger that I was looking for in the options report. Got blasted back down, but it did kiss off my nice little trend line, and so I'm still interested in it. But it needs a little bit of time after getting punched like that here today. I was looking at the potential momentum plays in the semiconductors, the momentum analysis bar by bar in NVIDIA. I just don't love bar. It's just not me, bar by bar. I love the more consistent, standard, traditional technical analysis. And so I kind of was looking at Marvel a little bit, and I still like the potential trigger on Marvel. But again, we're talking about a day where the market's come down pretty aggressive. And so I was looking at Marvel a little bit, but I did solidify my Queen's Court pick here today. Option report pick as well, and that is Canadian Solar. Now, we talked about solar last week. Coach Greg was on last Thursday. We talked about solar there. We talked a little bit about solar on Friday as well with Frank's charts there on Friday. And, this is an area of the market that I really, really like what I'm seeing from a technical perspective. You look at TAN here. TAN is the ETF that tracks the solar companies. And then when you look at kind of the breakdown of all the solar companies, I'll come into FinViz very quickly. And if you type in just one, not that one, but if you type in for solar and just kind of hit into solar, and then you can categorize it by market cap. So I'm looking at the biggest market cap companies, and then you hit the chart and you can kind of see them all very clearly here. And so you kind of get a nice little bird's eye view of all the different solar candidates, and obviously here's CSIQ there. And so we were taking a look in depth at all the potential solar candidates this week. And, we put 10 in another stock on the stock report. I fought for Canadian Solar for the options report. Number one, it's a great optionable stock. You can trade a lot of different options on it, whether you're talking about bull call spreads, bull put spreads, naked puts, covered calls. It really does allow you it has the liquidity in the market that allows different types of traders to trade their different types of systems. I'm looking at this obviously from a directional perspective though. And so when I'm looking at TAN here, I'm seeing a nice support level getting formed right there on the 200-day moving average. You see that 9 EMA catching up, and that potential trigger here on TAN is getting real tight. I like it quite a bit. When you're looking at the intraday chart, you see an old support level over here, kind of coincides with the resistance channels. To me, if you can kind of reclaim that 89.50 level, you should see a little bit of a pop in the solar areas of the market in general. Canadian solar a little bit more volatile than and I don't say that word as a negative. I actually used it as a positive because you like volatility as long as it's consistent, right? Mm-hmm. It's the lack of consistency in pattern recognition that really drives technical traders crazy. It's not volatility. Volatility is just part of the course of being a trader, and volatility can actually really, really help you because volatility simply measures speed. That's all it is. And so Canadian solar simply moves faster than TAN does. I like that. Now, what I like about Canadian solar here is, number one, is very similar to what we're seeing in the sector itself. There are other candidates that are out there that other traders may like a little bit more. For example, the additional momentum you're seeing in First Solar, the flag-based pattern, kissing off $90, which is now a new support level. So it breaks out. Now it tests that $90 support level. Confirmation here. I wouldn't blame anybody for saying they like the momentum in First Solar a little bit more than the potential in Canadian solar. It's a very similar analysis. Just wanted to point that out. But I like what I'm seeing here from a price action perspective. When I did the options report, I talked about what I wanted to see in Canadian solar, and I wanted to see a little bit of slowing momentum. We had seen it starting with the chart. We talked about this a little bit in the Friday halftime report as well. When you're looking at slowing momentum, there's a couple different ways you can do that. Number one, you can look at the lows of the day and you can see these contract over the last 3 days. That's an identification of slowing momentum. I like to look at it from an overall support perspective. I like to look at it from a width of the candle perspective. So there isn't just one simple technique that I personally do to identify that. But what I always say about momentum is this: slowing momentum is not an indication of increasing opposing momentum. And I do think the market gets that wrong quite a bit, where they simply see the slowing momentum and they're like, oh, the buyers are going to come back in. No, that just means the sellers stopped selling. It doesn't mean the buyers came in. We need to see that first. Well, when you're looking at this fired back action you're seeing in Canadian solar here today, look at this 30-minute chart. All this fired back action was on the opening price over a 3-day weekend in a market that was crazy this morning. And I do think you saw a little bit of an overreaction, specifically in Canadian solar. And I love this V-shaped fired back action on the intraday. Now, when I was breaking this down earlier today, when I was looking at it from a potential Queen's Court perspective, I was identifying this 4360 level as the intraday level of confirmation. We now have achieved that intraday confirmation, in my opinion. I do like the fired back action. You see that fired back action on a support bounce that is now holding. You now see a continuation trigger, maybe above 43, maybe above the high of the day. Again, 4630 was kind of where 4360 was kind of where I was looking at it from an intraday perspective. So I like the technical price action. Now, the one thing I will say is that 4360, when you're looking at a V-shaped recovery on an intraday perspective, that is aggressive upon aggressive type confirmation. If you're looking for a little bit of additional confirmation, which a lot of traders really love, that to me kind of is this 44 level. If you want to see that first, that is perfectly fine from a trading perspective. You got the 200-day moving average right there, You got some old chop over here at 44 as well. So that secondary confirmation for me would be 44. Now, the analysis, you can go look at the options report for the detailed analysis, but that's why I like it, and that's why I like the recover here. Now, in terms of the type of strategy that you can apply on this type, and this would be more of a standardized, thank you, sweetheart. This would be more of a standardized swing trade is what it would be. When you're, wow, my door just got shut. But when you're looking at this as a standardized swing trade, obviously we're targeting the previous level of resistance. That previous level of resistance would be right in that 46, 47, 48 range. It is volatile. It's going to be a bigger range. Secondary target would be up here in the $50 range. And that's where I think most traders are really kind of in the back of their mind saying, listen, if we achieve 46, 47, most likely we're achieving 50 as well. And so you got a nice entry here. We're just going to officially say above 44. Stop loss for me, again, we're coming down to the intraday analysis. I don't love the stop loss all the way down under 42, but there is nothing wrong with that. I think you can tighten that up, maybe even underneath 43 stop loss. So entry above 44, stop loss underneath that 43 level, targeting 47.5 by 50. All right. So you got your edge, you got your probability, and that's what the probability is. You got your edge. You also have at least a 1-to-1 reward to risk ratio at target one. That'd be about a 2.5 to 1 reward to risk ratio, more like 2-to-1 once you actually dial in your percentages of the ATR. Your T2 target is more than 2-to-1. You're perfectly fine there as well. Now the option strategy. Again, one of the reasons why a lot of traders like trading stocks like Canadian Solar is because they can do a lot of different types of systems. Now, when you're dealing with a stock with 61% volatility, obviously coming to the sector itself has 43%, it's going to be a little bit more volatile. Now, there's nothing wrong with buying options even when those options are expensive. You just got to expect that price appreciation. You just don't want to go into it with volatility declining. And so I would have no problem if somebody said, listen, I'm going to go buy an at-the-money call option, pay $3.50. Nothing wrong with that. What traders can do on a stock like this, though, is they can start offsetting their cost. And that's what I do like here. I do like a little bit of front-running bull call type price action here, where you initiate it with a call option, you sell a call option against that. And for me, this would be a little bit aggressive, but because I really like the $50 target, I'm going to sell a $50 call option. And so we're looking at buying the 44 call. 43 call would be perfectly fine as well. 43, 44 call, selling the 50 call option against it. By selling the 50 call option, your cost basis is going to come down over 40%, which is really good for a bull call spread. So if you're a little concerned about the additional volatility, sell something against it, bring in some cash flow, reduce the cost. When you reduce the cost, you reduce the risk. My queen score pick is a swing trade bull call spread on Canadian Solar.
Thank you very much for the wonderful analysis. I appreciate it. I will let you know what I think about this at the end after everybody else has presented.
All I heard was wonderful.
She makes you wait, though. She does. She'll make you wait.
Listen,
You will wait.
you might not see this, Queen, but behind you, I'm the gesture. I'm behind you. I'm dancing, and I'm pointing at Tim and Mark.
Listen, I'm not saying my head's not rolling today. I know it could. So
and we'll go in that order.
And I'm not cheering on their deaths. I'm just saying I survived.
All right.
You don't know yet, Tim. Go ahead.
I love the CSIQ pick, by the way. It's definitely set up very, very nicely. And I appreciate you bringing up first
Hammer
solar,
time, baby.
You've got a couple of different options in that sector. All right. PANW, if we can here next. Emily, I was thinking about the news today. I was also thinking about something that was a little bit off the beaten path in terms of what we've analyzed in the past, and I don't think I've ever brought up a cybersecurity play to you in Queen's Court. PANW, Palo Alto Networks, is definitely a growth idea. Let's start with that from the fundamental perspective, then we'll get to the theme and the news and why I believe there's still some juice and some legs to it. Number one, PANW is a wonderfully run company, but they're a growth stock, okay? They've increased sales by 30% on average annually over the last 5 years. So their numbers are getting better all the time. They continue to put shares out into the market too, because they're still funding those growth ideas. They do currently run a PE ratio that's concerning, depending on whether you TTM it or you look at just, over the 5-year period. Some of it's a negative PE ratio. I'll just say it's a really, really high number. But here's the kicker on that. Earnings have been improving. Even in the last quarter, they crushed the numbers. They upped their full year guidance. And there's some juice behind the theme in this story as well. I'll get to the technicals and the options here in just a minute. What is a story we've all seen in the headlines in the last 9 months? Over and over and over again. Cybersecurity attack on this or that or the other thing. Last month, it was meat producer JBS. Over the weekend, 1,500 businesses were affected by a ransomware attack from a Russian-based, organization that cyber
I thought Biden
attacked
said
them.
don't do it again.
They did it anyway, bro.
Oh, Putin didn't listen?
They're going to continue to do it. And it was on this Florida-based information technology company that holds and runs the data for a bunch of different businesses. It's a scary headline. There's no question about it. If you are in the marketplace, you run a business and you're like, okay, how do I make sure I stay secure? Cybersecurity is not only a developing industry, it's been there for a while, but it has huge growth in the future as these things are going to become more prevalent in society.
Yep.
Now, this group is wanting $70 million for this current attack, but that's not why I'm bringing it up alone. That's just an example of the theme that's been put in place around cybersecurity. And I think it's going to continue to move forward. Looking at Palo Alto Networks, couple things that really stand out to me. And Matt, can you give me a weekly chart first off? Long-term big picture, I see potential of a W pattern breakout against the all-time high at 403. It is healthy. It is strong. That weekly chart screams to me growth concept. It screams to me trend developing. Now, you do have some technical choppiness that could happen at $400. If it has to fight into that, fine. I'm not approaching this as a short-term trade. This concept for Queen's Court is not short-term analysis. This is long-term analysis on the backdrop of the industry, the backdrop of the potential. And by the way, in my personal opinion, this is the leader in that industry, not just by market cap, but it's the one stock I always think about potentially trading when I think cybersecurity. There's a couple others, but this is one that is right up there for me. Back down to the option analysis real simply, because I know sometimes people see a price tag and they're like, man, that's really expensive. It's not. Number one, you can always buy one share if you just want to invest, okay? $385 a share. But if you do want to do something with like writing against calls or whatever it might be, this actually is not that expensive implied volatility for a company that can grow like this, 32% IV.
That's tackle 25 covered call type volatility.
That's right.
That's Goldilocks volatility, 30 to 40%. Sexy.
And it's on the bottom end of a multi-year range for its volatility as well. So it's an interesting option choice. You can play equity. You could play leap options. There's a lot of different ways you could tackle this one here with PANW
Tim, can I ask you a question?
Perspective.
You mentioned leap options. Why would you select a leap option over, say, the stock itself?
Simply put, if I wanted to have more control over how many calls I sell against it, maybe there's some math in my position sizing based on the account I'm running that I don't want to play too many shares or whatever it might be.
So to clarify, you would be looking to do the leap because you wanted to sell more short-term options against it in a calendar spread instead of a covered call.
If I'm planning on holding,
if that's the case, yes.
That's
I just wanted
right.
I just wanted to clarify.
That's exactly right. And with the volatility where it is, the leaps are in play here. Still looking at $4,000 on the June, next year leaps, but still that's 10% against the stock price. Gives you all kinds of choices you can play around there. And by the way, yes, equity's still in play, but I do like to highlight the fact that you got a couple of different ways you could attack it. And Matt brings up Tesla here. I'm glad you do, because think about this.
It's
15,000.
twice. Yeah.
15,000
twice as much
for their leaps on Tesla. PANW also just, it has been strengthening even on its daily chart here recently. And, today it broke out of a little short-term consolidation. It popped up off the pivot in the 9 EMA. It's been healthily kind of moving back towards those highs. I like it from a theme perspective. I like their last earnings quarter as well. When we covered it, it gapped up and created the consolidation that then produced the breakout. I like the long-term potential, and I like the option pricing. This is my pick for the Queen's Court today. Coach Emily.
Thank you very much for the analysis on Palo Alto. Like it. I will let you know what I really feel about it after Mark goes.
Right. All right.
All right.
You're not dancing like
I had two picks for you today, my queen. Matt stole one of them, and Tim stole the theme on the other one. So I'm going to give you both. I'm going to give you both. I'm going to give you a different way to play CSIQ. I think everybody tackle tradings over CSIQ for different reasons. Right area of the markets, industry strength, pretty patterns, all kinds of that. Will you give me a monthly candle chart? Like me, like I'm a little cautious in this market right now, so I'm looking down below naked puts and stuff I like. Not anything you add to the momentum. That momentum analysis there that Matt's talking about, that Tyler was talking about last week, that plays into why, potential trigger or whatever. What I like about CSIQ, besides it being high volatility, area space, all that, I like, and I don't get the chance to do it very often, is sell naked puts and get a good premium above the rising 20 monthly. And I don't get to do that very often when that price level is also above the support zone that formed on a horizontal level. I get that with CSIQ right now. So when I look out at August, the 36, 37s look attractive to me. Above the support level, above the rising 20, I get a nice double band of support. Another way to play CSIQ, which is becoming a tackle darling over the last week, but that's what happens with trading, right? Situations develop different ways to play it. Cybersecurity, I don't have anything to add to that theme. Tim laid it out wonderfully. But give me FEYE, if you would. Now, I like volatility, but I also like boring. Like some of my favorite stocks, and I rarely get a chance to play them, are IBM, Juniper Networks. I like boring tech. And oftentimes they form nice consolidation patterns, play off the low, sell at the high, rinse and repeat. One of the problems, though, with the Juniper Networks and the IBMs of the world is I don't usually get very much volatility associated with them. FireEye had a jump in volatility today, right now in the middle of the range. It's down a few percentage points. It was a few percentage higher, but still a little bit of a jump in volatility on news, price action, in which can be a very, very boring stock. And so, theme-based, FireEye, boring, cybersecurity, yada, 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 all of that. But what I like about it is the situation that developed today. Jump in volatility, in a consolidation pattern, and will you give me a weekly candlestick? Once again, I have a rising, will you give me the weekly chart? So I get a technical momentum signal, I get a consolidation pattern, I get a bump in volatility, and I have that rising 50 weekly in this case. So when I get major moving averages rising into consolidation zone, I usually play them, and given the technical jump, the volatility jump, I get a sell a put on increased volatility at the bottom of range and get a pretty decent credit for August. Get a pretty decent credit at those $19 strike prices, which is what I'm looking, because I want to put it above that rising 50. I want to put it above that horizontal support level. So for all of the thematic reasons and FireEye, why am I picking this particular company aside from the increase in volatility support? They recently announced a buyback program of their shares, something that if I'm going to enter into a position, because this isn't, I don't do trading, I do position trading, I do longer term stuff. I want a company that's healthy enough to be buying back their stock, to give me that price stability, to give me that confidence that if for some reason the technicals were to give out, that I have a company in a space with a fundamental view of their future that can support me owning the shares and then selling calls against them. So I love the CSIQ pick by Matt, give you a different way to play it. I love the thematic pick by Tim, give you another way to play it. I present my dual offerings.
Well, oh, this is going to be hard. This is going to be so hard because, we talked about this at the beginning of the show today, and we talked about it, we've talked about it all, for the last couple of weeks. When the market is uncertain, we bet on growth, right? And what have you guys presented today on Queen's Court? All growth companies, different areas of tech, but we've got one that's in cybersecurity, we've got one that's in solar, we've got one that's in software. I love them all. For CSIQ, I love that it's in solar. We actually, Mark had brought out Run a couple of weeks ago when solar was starting to pick up. So you have a lot of choices in the solar area of the market where you can, when you look at the ETF, you've got all these different choices. You've got the individual stocks. You could go very many ways, in the solar area. So I absolutely love that. I'm still a fan of the solar area. So I cannot chop off Matt's head on CSIQ because I'm very interested in this space, right? And the fact that it was on the stock report or options report. I do like Mark's play in the naked put idea as opposed to doing the swing trade and doing the bull call. As a matter of fact, when you were building the bull call, I was already looking at the premium on the put side and how I could play that on the put side. I was actually looking at the 34, 35. So that would be my play on CSIQ. I wouldn't go the directional. I'll probably just.
I do like the 35 a lot more than 34, by the way.
Yeah. So that's what that's where my eyes were gravitating to. And when I saw the volatility, I was like, give me some cash flow. Like that's exactly where my eyes went. So absolutely love it. And the fact that you have choices, you can play it multiple ways, even better, right? So if you're a directional trader, you can certainly do the swing trade. If you like the cash flow, you can certainly go with Mark's option, and doing the naked put. So absolutely love CSIQ. So you will not have your head chopped off today. You survive.
Thank you.
The theme on cybersecurity, I love it. I love the theme. Tim starting to pick up on Mark and doing that whole thing, stealing Mark's thunder there with the whole theme and explaining all of that. And I absolutely love it. I love Palo Alto. I love this space. Again, an area of the market that I do not have exposure to. And as we are starting to see, tech break out and money gravitating towards the tech area of the market, this is where you go look for opportunities, right? And you go look for things that you probably even haven't played in a while. So, cybersecurity, and like you said, that's going to be a thing that's going to be with us. We're going to be dealing with, with identity theft and all these other things that we have to deal with because of just where we are in technology. So absolutely love that theme. It's a long-term play, which of course I love. And again, you can play it so many different ways. If you want to buy the stock and do covered calls, fine. If your account allows for it, if not, you can go the options route and do your poor boys covered call and do your leaps or whatnot. So different ways to play that one as well. And then we have FireEye. Out of the three choices, I would say CSIQ first, Palo Alto second, and FireEye third. But because Mark showed another way of playing the CSIQ with the naked put, I don't know that I can chop his head off of that, because that's the way I would have gone with the CSIQ play. And all of you, except for one person, when you were presenting your picks, referred to me as Queen. Only one of you referred to me as M, and you can guess who that was. If you want to go back and play the tape, you can. So I'm not chopping you off on what you presented. I'm just chopping you off based on how you address the queen.
Right?
Based on just generalized being you,
Coach Emily.
He didn't even say Coach Emily. He just said Emily.
Oh,
it's a respect issue, bro.
Oh man, it's how you address the queen. It's all about how you address the queen. So
Tim, you know your fault. You know what your problem is. You don't get it in character.
If we're gonna do, do you know your fault of the other brother? I'm gonna tell you to pick another pick. Like, yeah, I'm gonna chop his head off for just stealing mine and Tim's picks.
Oh man, I cannot chop off Mark. I cannot chop off Matt. So Tim, you addressed me as just M. It's not because of what you presented. I absolutely loved it, but you just referred to me as M. And the people want blood. I have to find a reason to give them blood.